Pinball Run, like when I first came up with it, was kind of just, let's see if it's even possible. Let's see if we can do a rolling rally that goes through like all the major moped cities on the East Coast. You know, like kind of just see all our friends as a rolling rally. And then that kind of turned into like, well, that's going to be damn near impossible. Let's make it a challenge. Let's see if any other hardcore riders want to get in on this. And it turns out a lot of people did from across the country. You know, it's kind of brought out the best of those guys that always, and ladies that always wanted to ride really hard. You know, like the best of the moped community that wants to get out there. Just like riding 60 miles isn't enough for them, you know.
With a hole in my head. I ride my moped, I don't. I ride my moped till it's drunk. I dream of eating brains. My moped is driving me insane. I ride my moped in my dreams. I blast on my moped till it screams. Fucked up, I know. It's not normal, I know. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. I ride my moped like a punk. I ride my moped like a punk. I ride on the wrong side of the road. I will never do what I'm told. Just to break society. This is not the moped tragedy. Now the cops are after me. Being chased by paparazzi. Gonna ride down to Mexico, wide open throttle, here we go, yeah! I ride my moped like a punk. I ride my moped like a punk.
My name is Travis, and I'm of YouTube fame on the YouTube channel Travis Tutorial. I'm out here on Pinball Run with my co-rider Will, and we're riding a 1977 JCPenney Pinto moped. Problems on pinball are the norm. So, it started out with a screw that fell out of our carburetor, air leak in the bottom end of our engine case, we had our tire rubbing our rear fender, we had screws and bolts loosened up, falling all over the road. We had spark problems, electrical problems. We rebuilt our motor in a parking lot of a Chinese restaurant out in Washington, up in Tacoma. Thankfully, they didn't come out and yell at us. Beautiful thing about Pinball Run is that, you know, mopeds were designed in the 70s, supposed to be thrown away in the 80s, and not only are we still riding them today, we're riding them across the country from north to south, Seattle to pretty much Tijuana, Mexico, ending at Imperial Beach. So we're riding these old things, they're breaking down all over the place, and people think we're crazy. And they say, why do we do it? Why would you ride a moped that far? It doesn't make sense. Motorcycle people don't understand it, they don't quite get it. It's really about the experience. It's about experience, it's about proving your mechanical ingenuity, it's about getting together with your friends and having fun, and most importantly, it's about not taking yourself too seriously. If you take yourself too seriously when you're riding a moped, you're doing something wrong. Sexiest moped, by far, is probably a Puch Maxi N. It's a rigid frame, so it's got a rear end. It's crazy light. It's so light you can do so much with it. And it's got a Pookie 50, a motor you can do anything with. Ugliest moped? Ugliest moped is a modern Tomos top tank. They're so bread and butter. They're all over the place. Somebody entered a brand new Tomos in the Pinball Run. A brand new bike! There's no fun in that. There's no spirit, no adventure. There's no breaking down. Coming in first, second, and third. Well, in previous years of pinball, the brand new Tomos is always placed somewhere. It's just that reliable. I also like to think about people who have genuine mechanical ability. I gotta give credit to Sabat. He's got a water-cooled Peugeot and he knows every inch of it. Other than that, it's kind of a toss-up. Pookie 50s are simple and very easy to fix, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're a good bike. Mine had plenty of problems today, and I tried pretty hard to build it well. Will I make it to the end of pinball? Yes, I will make it to the end of pinball. I will make it to the end of pinball no matter what. Even if I have to push that bike across the line, I will make it to the end of pinball.
My name is Maitland. I'm on Team Swamp Creatures. As far as the rules on Pinball Run, I think a lot of them are, for the most part, fair because they came about like no one's ever been a hardliner about shit. If it doesn't work one year, let's change it and make it work the next year. I like the road rules, especially like no major freeways, stuff like that. Makes you get creative with your routes. Makes navigation an actual part of the event, which it should be. Shouldn't just be like, hop on the biggest thing we can find and just blast straight, guys. It's not the point of mopeds. I don't have an issue with the rules as of yet. I like a lot of them. They come about organically and they're always up to change as far as I've noticed. So there's nothing that's ever set in stone. When I see mile markers, the only time I get excited is when that GPS countdown goes from going like 11, 12 in like single digits and you start seeing the tenths of a mile. When it's like 9.7 miles to go, that's when I start getting excited because I have like a countdown timer that's more rapid. And I'm like, all right, 9.6, 9.5. Let's do this. Let's do this. A motorcycle requires you have to respect tolerances and you have to respect the way it was designed, because if you're going with the amount of torque a motorcycle has and the amount of power you have, like, you don't want to snap shit. You don't want things to snap because they'll go flying and it's very unsafe. You might crash. With a moped, you can kind of like eyesight things and like put a little more gasket goo on it and it'll work. And if it seizes the engine, you just coast to a stop. You don't lock up and move flying off the bike. Like, the risk is lower. You can actually just kind of like, okay, I use a Pabst can gasket for a head gasket for 2 years. Works fine. I think that's why, like, you can't do that on motorcycles. The tolerances are too tight. Mopeds are meant to be loose and rattly and smoky and greasy and leaky, and you can just work with that. I think that's why people would rather get like a crappy moped that sucks all their money away than a motorcycle that works most of the time, but you can't just kind of half-ass it on the side of the road to get you home. So the bike that we're riding is the same bike as last year. It's a Motorbrina Sebring top tank. This year we added a 5-gallon tank. it never ran right. Like, it started going to 500 degrees like day one. I rode entirely from Seattle to Portland with the choke on. Honestly, this thing just eats pistons like it's its fucking job. And I don't know if I could build something to eat pistons better than this machine currently does. This year, I had it kind of easy. I was dressed in an alligator outfit with a full head, bodysuit, and everything. And honestly, if I ever felt down, I would see somebody passing me when I'm going 40, 45 on a 55 mile an hour road, and they're trying to get to work or home or wherever the fuck, and they're angry, and they pass me and they see that it's an alligator on a moped, and I see them smile and take a picture of me. And then I'm like, fuck yeah, let's keep going.
In a world where mopeds have gone insane, one man stands between survival and annihilation. Boss Sauce, the Loadmaster.
But yeah, well, originally we were thinking for this one to go from, it was actually Tijuana to Vancouver, and we were going to call it Up Yours, like Pinball Run 3, Up Yours, you know, so we went down the East Coast, went down to Mississippi, and we were going to go up the West Coast. Unfortunately, too many people had issues getting into Canada or getting back into the country from Mexico. So we decided to shorten it up just a little bit. They cut a day off.
My name is Mike Boyd Williams. I'm with Team Ratchet. The renaissance of mopeds came from Kalamazoo putting up a website. They simply were the first. They put up Moped Army. This was in the beginning of forums. I mean, you can look at Moped Army and look at it. It's so old, it's archaic. There's something about the freedom of riding a moped. It's compared to a motorcycle or a scooter, it's different. It's much smaller, and you own that bike, and you make that bike. You fix it every single day. You fix it roadside. You can make that bike an expression of your own self much more easily than you can, say, like a Harley Davidson. I underestimated Pinball Run this year, for sure. I always knew that it was about really like kind of the masters of tuning or the masters of like just sticking it out and getting it done. There's people that are making amazing engines in our community, and those guys are killing it. And there's people that just have heart. It's heart, and they will go the distance no matter what. I underestimated Pinball Run this year because I had no idea how many hills we were gonna hit. We made the worst build for climbing hills. My advice for future pinball teams, please have a plan B. If someone ever said to me that mopeds were easy to work on and they were riding a Harley, I'd say, fuck you. If someone else asked me, are mopeds easy to work on? I'd say, absolutely. They're very easy to work on. However, if you leave late on Pinball Run, you're in trouble. It's going to take you a long time to get to that next spot. Make your bike ready in the morning by 10 to go. Parts are difficult to come by on the road. You can't go to an AutoZone. You have to have the parts that you need with you. So this Pinball Run, my first, I broke every cylinder I ran and ring. The rules are that only 2 people can ride a bike in order to qualify. And our team was 3 guys with 2 bikes and 3 engines. But then my bike DNF'd. And suddenly all the resources, including my resources, were towards my teammates' bikes. And I realized at that moment, I'm not going to ride a moped for the rest of pinball. I wasn't going to be the guy that was riding the bike for the team that was going to go through the finish line. Like, I was support suddenly. I will do pinball again, 100%. The lessons I learned were gear for hills, never trust an E50 unless it's really kitted out. And always, like, your teammates are going to be there for you. If you're on a good team makes a pinball team.
I'm Jake Spangle. I'm with, we don't really have a name, but we're the Treats / Black / Creatures team from San Francisco. I am riding a 1978 Free Spirit with a Pook MX-125 dirt bike tank on it. Treat reed kit, 15 PHBG, Boss pipe. It's got a really sick sissy bar I welded up all by myself. It broke on Monday, so I put a Vespa Grande front end on it. I decided to participate in pinball. I guess, I mean, I didn't know what it was till last year's run. And, Two Creatures, Angel and Maitland, they're over that way, probably about 100 miles or something like that. They did it, and I had heard about it, and like some other folks I know did it, and it seemed really cool. And then, my next guess was that it was going to be on the West Coast this year, and it turns out it was. And like, why not ride my moped 1,600 miles in a week and hang out in a really cool place with really cool friends and have fun and, blast and do poppers and kiss dudes. The last time I ran into trouble with the law on a moped was Portland, Oregon, a year and a half ago. And there's that one time I got hit by a car, but nothing bad's ever happened to me. Undoubtedly, it will happen on this trip. I had a $100 bill, and I wanted to put it into the ATM and take out 20s because I don't like carrying around hundreds. 20s are way more fun because I can just be like... So, I pulled my moped up onto the sidewalk at a Bank of America and deposited my $100 bill, and while I was doing that, a police officer tapped me on the shoulder and told me that I cannot have my moped on the sidewalk, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not from here, I didn't know that, I'll move it if you'd like. And then he spent the next 20 minutes trying to trick me into admitting that I had moved to Portland, Oregon, which I had not. I even told him, call my mom, she'll tell you where I live. Aww. He got really frustrated and left. I'm into mopeds because... Well, fuck if I know. Mopeds are great. They're fun. I love the people. It's fun to work on them. It's the least frustrating way to get around town I've done. I hate buses. Driving my car is annoying. I don't really have any cartilage in my knees, and I smoke too much for a bicycle to be practical. So, I kind of just I bought a moped about 18 months ago, and here I am now. I anticipate the rest of this pinball run going for me personally, like, probably awful. But I'm gauging my success on pinball and how much I care. Like, kind of in the golf sense, and right now I don't care at all, so I'm doing great. I would say, too, people who want to get into mopeds but can't, just like, do it and don't be scared. Because, the past year, I've gotten, like, at least 10 friends on mopeds, and like a lot of folks get discouraged because it's like kind of scary, a little intimidating. When it breaks you get all freaked out, but like just go for it, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and like if your bike breaks, just like get some help. Like don't be a weenie.
Probably the most grueling part of it is pretty much showing up to the start line. Having to actually complete your build on time and somehow get yourself and all your spares ready and do all that planning. That's the most grueling part of it. Like a lot of people think that it's just the riding, but actually just showing up for the start line is a huge challenge.
I shoot guns every fucking day. America, we're number one. Eat my ass.
My name's Sammy Abuswe, Jose Garcia on Facebook, never DNF. For my job, I'm a software developer. I write bullshit software for big ass companies. Currently, I'm writing plugins for antivirus companies. But that sucks, and I like mopeds, so I blow it off and come ride mopeds. Moped Army is a shit show. Like, I like it because of the community that's evolved from it, but you can't get anything good from Moped Army. End of story. I don't really have a least favorite moped. Everything I've ridden, I've enjoyed a lot, because I guess maybe I haven't ridden dumb mopeds. Favorite moped, hands down, MB5. My buddy Joe Peg could attest to that. Everyone knows MB5s are the only real mopeds, so I'm gonna stick with MB5 as my final answer. Anything but a snark. Snarks are pretty terrible. Pinball Run's better than going to work. I came out on Pinball Run because it's 2 weeks off of work, and I get to ride mopeds around the country with my friends and have a horrible time and make terrible decisions with a bunch of other assholes that are doing the same thing. The best things that have happened are finishing in front of Team Moped from Denver almost every single day. I get a lot of shit from those guys back in Denver because combined we have 30 years of moped experience, and then me and Joe Peg are idiots. And we roll across the finish line almost every day in front of those guys. And they're gonna have to eat a big shit sandwich because of that. Some of the worst things that have happened this year on Pinball Run: crashed my moped, Joe's moped, our moped, but it didn't fuck up the moped. We were able to just get back on it and ride it. We haven't turned a wrench on it in 4 days. That's the key to success. Wrenching is for chumps. I crashed when I was pulling onto the shoulder to let some cars pass, and there was a big pile of sand that showed up out of nowhere, and I hit it and just went down. Some people pulled over, they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, get the fuck out of here." And I threw my helmet, threw the moped, and went to the car. The problems I've had on this trip so far was Joe Peg seizing the bike once, and then I took that as an example and seized it 4 more times. If I could do anything different this ride, as much as it pains me to say it, I would have listened to Joe Peg when he said, "Don't hammer down too far on that thing, you're gonna seize it." Because then I proceeded to seize it 4 times. And then I started listening to Joe Peg, and it's been solid. My daily routine consists of waking up and wrinkling out with Joe Peg, which one of us is hopping on that stock Hobbit seat every single day and starting the ride, riding the moped, and then getting drunk as fuck and doing it again. When I'm not riding Pinball Run, I'm usually hustling around to work and whatnot. I have this bad habit of hoarding mopeds. Maybe that's a better word, hoarding. I get a bunch of mopeds, I ride them till they break, and then I don't do anything to them. So my plan after Pinball Run, since I won't be fucking around with pinball shit, I'm just gonna make all my shit run and have stuff to ride around constantly. If I had to figure out what our average speed is, my ballpark estimate would be, I have no idea because Team DroSux doesn't plan. We just do stuff. I'd say maybe 45, maybe 40. Am I factoring in the time we're pushing our moped up a mountain? Because that really throws the curve there. If we're not having problems, our average speed's 45. We're not gonna DNF because we coined the term never DNF. So if we DNF, it's basically letting down all these other assholes that DNF'd. I mean, they get to sit on their bus and party, but we're hammering down on that thing.
Yeah, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. You know, like the whole thing is made to be a challenge of your building abilities, your riding abilities, endurance, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not supposed to be. If nobody failed, it wouldn't be fun.
My name's Joe Pig. I am from Portland, Oregon. I'm in uphill battle. I'm riding with hashtag Team DroSux because we hate Matt Dro. He's the worst person in mopeds. And so we ride every year as Team DroSux to prove that. I'm riding a Honda Hobbit that was built by my friend Matt from Full Hoff Fabricators. It's got a DR kit and a promo pipe, and pretty much everything else is stock. I only seized it once today, so. My Hobbit, I'm not sure how fast it goes exactly. I would say we've tested it against my MB5. My MB5 went 50 and the Hobbit was about as fast as that. I was probably cruising around 42 today, most of the day, going about 7/8 throttle, not pushing it too hard, just kind of riding because I didn't have chase all day today. So I'd say about 45 solid, no problems. I am pretty confident that it's just going to be fine. I just have to go south. I mean, I haven't planned my route at all. I'm not sure how Pinball Run's going to go totally. I think my bike will be fine if I didn't blow up today. I mean, I did seize it today 12 miles in, but I didn't seize it after that. So if I didn't blow up today, I think I'll be pretty good. I'm pretty confident in its ability to make it. I mean, Honda makes some of the best vehicles in the world. My favorite moped, most people debate the fact that it's a moped. My favorite moped's a Honda MB5. I've had one for a long time. It just recently got stolen, but it's my favorite bike that I've ever owned. Second to that, I would say Vespa mopeds, but only in dumb factor. But Honda definitely knew what they were doing when they made mopeds. I mean, everything I've had from Honda is amazing. Quality Japanese engineering. I don't know, mopeds are stupid and we're dumb for doing it. There's literally no reason that I should be a 29-year-old man riding on a child's toy across the country. I mean, up and down the country. It's 1,700 miles. Why the fuck would I do this? There's literally no reason why I should do this other than I can. My least favorite moped is instantly, the gut reaction is French bikes. But I've only owned a couple and they're not that terrible. I really don't dislike any moped. I've owned some of the shittiest mopeds in the world. I had an AMF Roadmaster friction drive and I loved it. I had a Jumbo Free that I loved that I got for $50. It was one of my favorite mopeds ever. It's hard to say the moped's bad because no matter what, if you have a moped, you can get somewhere. Like, I could ride my moped to Seattle if I want. Like, I have that freedom to do. So as long as I've got a bike, it's really hard to hate it, even if it's French. My gas tank is just a stock Hobbit gas tank, so I get about 60 miles a tank. And without looking at my phone, I don't really know how far I've gone. And I don't know when I have to fill up or when the next station's gonna be. So I was filling up with like $1 or $2 here and there. So that was a lot. That was really time consuming. And I didn't have a backpack, so I was carrying oil in my pocket.
Oh, yeah.
I try not to think about it too gender specifically. You know, everybody that rides is cool. I mean, you know, anybody that shows up at the start line, you know, ready to ride a moped is just radical. So.
My name is Ashley, and I'm on Team Roommate.
I got into mopeds when I was 18 years old, and I've been hooked ever since. They offer a productive adrenaline, if that makes sense. Mopeds are easier than a bicycle to ride. I think they're harder to start than they are to actually ride. Riding for me was definitely more mentally draining than it was physically draining. I'm a smaller person, so I'm very comfortable in uncomfortable positions for a really long time. Our gas range was about 100 miles on our tank. Our gas tank was over 1.5 gallons. I think it might have been 2 gallons. So we definitely got a lot out of it. And our bike not being super kitted or having a huge carburetor on it definitely helped with gas mileage too. Down a hill, our bike goes about 50, but on average, maybe like 42 miles an hour on a good day. It really depends on the weather. Halfway through a really long day, the bike finally broke down. So I pulled the clutch apart while I was waiting for our chase vehicle to get there, and the main gear was completely sheared. So on the side of the road, we had to swap out an engine, and it ended up not starting. We ended up DNFing that day and throwing the bike in the back of the car and drove the rest of the way to the Redwoods. I think we were maybe 40 miles away from the end of the day. But once we realized in the morning that it was truly just two wires being swapped, I hopped on the bike and went 15 miles an hour for 3 hours to break in a brand new motor. And after a while, it was cruising just like the old motor was. I like to say don't never finish. I learned the basics of how to work on my Peugeot from Moped Army. There were no moped shops in Yuba City, California, so it was a well of resources for me. I definitely think that it is the reason mopeds are what they are today. I mean, it's a central place for people with a common interest to gather and ask questions. On the other hand, Moped Army is a very toxic and shitty place to try to participate in that community. I have so much advice for somebody who's thinking about getting a moped, and the first thing is definitely do it. You might regret it, but it'll be fun. Take advantage of people who ride in your area. Even if you don't know them, being like, hey, I just got this bike. I don't know how to work on it. Do you guys have meetups? If you ride a moped, you immediately have access to people who are obsessed with it. So take advantage of that kind of community that you only get in a hobby like this. And definitely be prepared to spend some money. You might get a bike for $300, but it's the kind of hobby that will drain your money very quickly, but it's worth it.
Oh, the chase will always catch you. Actually, sometimes the chase has broken down.
My name is Bronwyn, and I drive Chase for the Swamp Creatures. Angel makes them, Maitland breaks them, I chase them. I have a Maxi, I have 2 Hobbits, and I have a Minerali V2. The greatest part of this adventure is, you just get to chill with your friends for a week straight, and then even when it's really rough and kind of sucks, there's still really awesome things that happen. Well, the reason I did pinball this year is because we did pinball last year, and I heard this was going on, and I heard Maitland was doing it, so I just texted him, and I was like, hey, if you need a chase driver, I'll do it. I kind of want to take some time off, and then we did really well last year and had a blast and made a pact that we were going to come back with the same team this year. A typical day in Chase for me, I usually get up after Angel. Angel always wakes up first to start working on the bike. And then I wake up and reorganize the car. So that means taking everything out and repacking it properly. And then I usually try and sort out coffee and breakfast. Find a really fucking good chase driver who's not gonna fucking cop out on you at the last minute or have a shitty car that breaks down, or who will go take long lunch breaks and not fucking follow your moped so that when you break down you have to wait 2 hours for them to show up. These are all things that will cause you to DNF.
That's good luck. You see that? Oh, shit. Wow.
My name is Snortly P. Christ. I live in Seattle, and I ride a Pook Magnum today. At least the frame is a Pook Magnum, and with some extra special shit on it too. I'll tell you that right now. I got dual carbs. Woo! I got an air seat. And the air seat, let me go into that a little bit here. It's a pant leg that I've cut off and stuffed a moped inner tube in, snaked it in there. That's right, and it's like riding on air. That with the K10 forks up front, rides like a cat. And for an old hillbilly like me, that's just about the best you can do. I wouldn't ride with Brendan Barons as a team. He's a so we split up, and he rides his shit and I ride my shit. My first moped I got when I was 14, back in '65. Boy, it was a sweetheart, Japanese little race bike, and rode the piss out of that thing until Johnny Law told me I had to hand it back to him, to the guy I bought it from, and because it didn't have a title or anything like that on it. But I was 14, underage and shit. Well, my ride, how it went today, it went fabulously. I just sat back on that big old luxury liner, and I have big cruiser bicycle handlebars coming back, and I just leaned back and took it all in. You know, I mean, I've got a sense for nature, and we gel together. You know, I mean, I communicate with nature, and it returns its beauty, and it was just wonderful. The air was perfect. I was going down to San Diego anyway, and I said, well, fuck, I might as well take one down, because then I can check out this future moped ride. I did not ride from Seattle to San Diego on my moped. That's a lie. And anybody that tells you that is a fucking liar. And I'm here to tell you that no, I didn't. I rode my van down. Now, I've been riding with a Mosquito fleet now since about 2004, I think it's been. I haven't got one of them silly tats or anything that they got on their foreheads or whatever the fuck. I tripped over them one time. They were having a rally, and I just happened to see a bunch of mopeds, and so I pulled my car over dramatically because I love mopeds, and I'd always wanted to get another one now that they're cheap. When mopeds first came out, you know, you could get a really decent car, used car, for what a moped was. I mean, real decent. And so I was going to wait on that, get it cheap. Just like I buy technology, phones and shit. I get the technology on the cheap, you know, wait for it to get a little old. Fuck it. I don't know the difference. So, yeah, and, they were a little dubious about me at first, but I kind of grew on them, and now I'm a Mosquito fleeter of sorts. You know what I mean?
Derek Lahman, I think, Team Vespa. I am riding a Vespa Chow, new forks, new engine built from scratch, new transmission, new cylinder, bigger car, bigger gear ratio in the back. I had a double tank. I had the Chow's kind of regular down tank, and I had a Gorelli Super Sport tank, top mounted. If I was, full throttle, I could go for about 3 hours of kind of straight riding, which was around 120, 130 miles. The average cruising speed was, depending on how hot the day was and our altitude, was 45 to 50. When you're riding 300 miles a day at twice the RPM, 3 times the RPM a bike is supposed to do, shit is just gonna rattle and break. I had a lot of mechanical difficulties. I had a flat tire. I was having so many little problems where it would inexplicably be acting weird, or like I had soft seized and it was, not giving me any power. I had built a motor like specifically for the Pinball Run, and then I had brought my daily driver engine with me. So at a certain point, I said, fuck it, and just threw on my daily bike's engine. The biggest challenge as a solo rider was exhaustion. 300 miles in a car is nothing, but 300 miles on a moped in a day, it sucks. Like, it's awful. My body was rattling itself to death kind of all day long, and my back hurt and my arms hurt, and it was so goddamn hot. I think it was driving into LA. You could either take the coastal route or the desert route, and like a dummy, I chose the desert route. The majority of my mental energy was spent kind of listening to the bike. You hear a weird clunk or you hear a weird rattle, and just kind of listening, trying to decipher what it's telling you. And if something is about to happen, you want to hear it before calamity strikes you. When I first got into mopeds, you couldn't order a fucking poop cylinder in the United States, let alone the insane selection we have nowadays with treats, honestly. Moped Army as a whole, a good idea that falls into the same trappings as any organization. It gets a little cliquey and it gets a little, these are the cool guys and these are the not cool guys. I don't even know where I would be without Moped Army, because it has given me such an amazing opportunity to meet a lot of really cool people and go a lot of cool places. So I think Moped Army is a good thing. Everything has its hiccups, but in general, it's a good resource. The advice I have for somebody who wants to get into mopeds is to just go for it. It's fun, it's cool, it's cheap. Just fucking go for it, man. Who cares? Don't think about it so much. Just have a good time. It's a stupid toy. Mopeds are toys, man.
We're about like 5 days in, and we've lost 20 out of 30 bikes so far. So, yeah, so two-thirds of DNF'd already. Kind of like the first one, it was just like 23 bikes entered, 5 finished. And it was just barely at 5 too. It's kind of questionable. So, pretty fun.
So my name is J-Bot. I am not on a team. I'm just by myself.
I'm into mopeds mostly because they are imperfect in so many ways. They're so fucked up. They're so stupid. I don't leave anything alone, you know? Like, I modify everything that I own. The other reason why I like mopeds so much is because riding them is like something I can't explain. There's a definite difference between scooters and mopeds as far as riding. The thrill you get from being on such a light bike and going pretty quick, there's nothing in the world like it. It's so exhilarating. The feeling of just ripping along that it's magic. It's magical. My favorite is Honda Hobbit because I know all of its eccentricities and all of its failings. That's been kind of like my chosen bike to make fast and that I learned on, basically. I had an extra 80 pounds of gear with me on the bike, and the bike didn't care. The bike is very, very modified. It's a Honda Hobbit. It has a top tank. I took a fire extinguisher. That's the top tank for this thing. Had some transmission modifications, had made a water-cooled head for it, DIY pipe that I kind of made. With a 24 Oco, I was getting about 40 miles to the gallon, and I had 3 gallons, so it was 120 miles on a tank. All my bikes look like Frankenstein's abortion. They're ridiculous. Physically, I was pretty much okay till probably about halfway through. Started to become a slog after about 3 or 4 days. I had like bruises on my ass because I had no butt muscle. Mentally, it was hard. The hardest moments for me were the interpersonal relationships. I don't know. There were some fights and people got all angry and stuff like that. And so that was when I was like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm real cheap, so I didn't really have a good tent or a good sleeping bag kind of thing or any of that stuff. So, I just kind of roughed it. I brought an extra engine. I brought extra oil, extra tubes. I didn't bring in extra tires, and I did have to get one at one point. I planned for stuff, so I brought a lot of shit. 80 pounds of garbage. To get into mopeds, you can't treat them like they're a scooter or just a reliable form of transportation. You have to like to wrench on things, you have to love to tinker, and you cannot get discouraged. Deal with it,
The Pinball Run is one of those things where it's just like, you can get together with your friends and put together a crazy event. It's not impossible. You can do it. It's not a real hard thing. It's part of mopeds. It's fun, the fun and the spirit of adventure. That's what you get with it. That's a part of mopeding. And I just wanted to take it to the extreme, just see what we could do with it.
My name is James Culver. I'm with the Long Beach Knuckleheads. I will always be a Long Beach Knucklehead in memory of my friend David Goltz. I had drastically underestimated the terrain and had my moped way under geared, so I just couldn't get into the pipe going like 15 miles an hour. And I found some cardboard in the trash and taped it to the moped and made these bearings just to cut through the wind. I didn't have it properly ported, and then I had it geared too tall to the hills. I had an average cruising speed of maybe 20 to 25 miles an hour. On the last day to San Diego, I think I was probably averaging around 35 to 40 miles an hour. I took a frame and case halves and a motor, built a moped basically from scratch. It was a Tomos motor. It was a Tomos Sprint or so it was a Tomos. The tank, it was an LX tank. I had the moped that I rode. So it was a Tomos moped bike. I ended up walking my moped to the nearest gas station where I put on a new CDI ignition. I was able to fire it up, and I made it into San Luis Obispo before midnight, actually 11:55. The clutch situations where that had exploded. I had a spare motor, and I was able to take the clutch pieces from that and put my clutch together again. Made it almost to LA with it blowing up again. I take the second gear clutch, move it over to the first gear, and I ride with just first gear all the way like to LA. And I had clutch problems for the remainder of the trip. I finished. I did not DNF. I ended up finishing last. I think it was 9th place, but I finished. Fuck, I even had a flat tire on the way to San Diego. It really tested every bit of my patience and ability. So you're going to get your first moped. I would say, what's your motivation behind this? Do you want to get a moped for a form of reliable transportation? Don't do it. Get yourself some type of 4-stroke vehicle or a scooter or something else. But if you want to have adventures and you want to test your skills and grow and learn and hang out with a group of people who are, down with humility and if you're down to subject yourself to continuous failure, get a moped. It takes a special breed of person, and I think that is a great filter.
It's basically all bragging rights too, It's kind of just like, hey, I did that. Like I rode my moped across the country 3 times. So I can just see.
Go Team Vespa.
Go Team Vespa.
Don't want to do that.
Now you've shot yourself.
She looked at me with a dirty eye. She said, don't stare at the sky. Unnatural forces at hand. Take cover and you'll understand. Take cover and you'll understand.
I'm done with this world.
North Bend, there was this huge downhill, and I got to go, I went 66, which, way too fast for chow, don't ever do that. That's stupid. It was fun though, and finishing was great, kind of, oh, and beating Joe Peg in his Hobbit, in his face. Everybody knows the dual variation score, and Vespas are the best and the most fun.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
it's a waste of time and money.
I don't know what it is.
You get to hang out with people you haven't seen in a really long time, and it's awesome. And you're gonna have the time of your life, but it's just not worth it because mopeds are dumb and they'll break, and you'll get in fights with your best friend, but then you guys will make up, and it'll all be worth it in the end. So maybe do it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I want to wipe my face. I think that make sure you shower.
What time are you
Stay
guys
in the
going
Madonna
back tomorrow
Inn.
morning?
Laugh with luxury.
You got someone to try and get behind you.
Yeah, pinball's an amazing thing. I don't regret it, but there was times where I regretted the moment that I signed up for it throughout the race. And it's one of those things you just gotta love it to do it. And I wasn't gonna quit, that's for sure. Once you start pinball, you gotta finish, or at least try until you're totally out of parts. That's usually the last thing to go.
Even though my bike was running like shit that day because I had to, I seized my DR, well I didn't seize it, but I just scored the shit out of the DR kit that I had, and that was really tuned really well. But I had to swap a different kit on, and it's a much higher timed kit. It was just from another bike that I had. I just pulled the whole motor off and put it on my bike. And the problem was my weights and my variator weren't correct for that. They were too heavy. So when I'd be driving around, there's a power band in two strokes, where when you hit it, it's just like, and you just fly and take off. It's fucking great. But if your rollers are too heavy, then you get it originally, like when you first start off, and then it goes. And there's no power in that, and it's horrible. And so I drove all day with that on the LA day. But